What is going on, guys? We're back with another video on this channel, Zelda Zone. As you know, I'm Eli.
And I'm Ryan.
And we are your hosts on this channel. And today we're going to be talking about The Legend of Zelda and the timeline.
First off, before any of the games were put in chronological order, which is how we're reading this timeline, it is said by legend that the three goddesses, Din, Nayru, and Flora, came down from the heavens and made the land of Hyrule. And then when they went back up to the heavens, they left behind the Triforce, a fraction of their godly power. First up on it, after that, is Skyward Sword. In Skyward Sword, Demise, the Demon King, is sending his army of demons against the people of Hyrule to try to take the Triforce for himself. So, in result of that, the goddess Hylia sends the Triforce and the Hylians up into floating islands into the sky. Then your hero Link then defeats Demise and it goes back to the ground.
So basically, in the game, you start out, you find your Loftwing, which I'm not going to say how you find it because that's a spoiler, but basically, after you find the Loftwing, you go down to the land and you gotta beat Giraham like 3 times, and you gotta do like a bunch of puzzles and stuff. But then after that, you get to defeat Demise, and after that, you beat the game.
Next up is the Minish Cap. Just to recap, in between this time was the banishment of the Twilight. The Twilight were like, how would you say it? Kind of like people who were trying to go against the Triforce, trying to seal it, like go against how it was being used. So what they did is the Triforce was sealed in the Sacred Realm, and then the Twilight were banished into the Twilight Realm. That brings us to Minish Cap, whereas when the people came back down, they met a race called the Picori, also known as the Minish. The Minish gave them the legendary Four Sword as well as the Golden Power. Not to be confused with the Triforce, it is more of a power of light. What happens is in the game is a Minish by the name of Vati goes evil and takes over, turning Zelda to stone and trying to steal her light force. What Link does is he has to team up with the Hat Eslo, who is an old Minish who was transformed into a hat by Vati, to go and stop Vati and his evil works.
So basically, in the game, what you have to do is at one point you get the hat of the Minish, and you have to go and find Vati, and you have to defeat Vati to save Zelda.
And along the way, there's lots of different puzzles and different regions and stuff that you have to go through. Which brings us to our next game, Four Swords. In this game, Vati is revived, but then Link brings back the Four Sword and seals him once again.
So in this game, you have to, I'm pretty sure this one you have to have friends, and then you connect them with like your Game Boy stuff. But basically, you have to defeat dungeons, and at one point, you get to Vati again, and you have to defeat Vati as a team.
This game was more of a short game, having only 4 dungeons, all of which were back-to-back, for the game more focused on the fact that it was multiplayer. After that, the developers kind of rushed through the rest, but who can blame them? Alright, next up, after this, was the Hyrulean Civil War, which leads us to the big game that you all know. It's Ocarina of Time. In Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf is born of the Gerudo, and he has plans to find a way into the Sacred Realm and take the Triforce and take over Hyrule. Link is a young boy in the forest who finds his way out into the world and to the princess. From there, the princess tells about her dream. He goes out and collects 3 spiritual stones, and then, after Ganondorf rises to take over, Link goes, pulls the Master Sword, and accidentally seals himself in the Sacred Realm for 7 years. During this time, Ganondorf takes over Hyrule, so when Link comes back, he has to go around to the different ends of Hyrule to different temples, gaining the medallions of each sage to then face off Ganon in the end and save Hyrule.
So basically, in this game, you wake up in the forest and you find Navi, and after you talk to the Deku Tree, you have to go to Hyrule Castle Town and you talk to Zelda, and Zelda actually gives you her ocarina, but then after Ganon attacks, basically Impa takes Zelda and Zelda throws her ocarina at Link, and once you get this, you have to go around the map getting the stones from the sages. There are 3, and then you have to fight Ganon and beat the game. And now there is a break in the timeline because Link was sealed away for 7 years.
What happens is at the end of the game, Zelda sends Link back to his childhood, resulting in 3 different things. Either A, Link just fails to beat Ganon and the hero is defeated. B, the hero is triumphant, and when the hero succeeds, then 2 splits come from that. Either A, Link goes back in time and then tells Hyrule hey, Ganon's about to take over, and Ganon is stopped. Or what happens is in the adult timeline, Ganon is sealed away, and then he breaks out from that seal. So first we're gonna start with Link just failed in Ocarina of Time, and the 7 sages seal away Ganon, but there's a war after that, which leads us to Link to the Past. In which the evil King Ganon revives, and then is exterminated by Link after Link has to go around, getting the different medallions to get the Master Sword, going through the Dark World to eventually find Ganon and save Hyrule.
So in A Link to the Past, you wake up and then you basically go around because Ganon's effect has already taken, and there's monsters all around. You have to beat a bunch of dungeons, and then you get a lantern and a boomerang. But at one point, you have to go defeat Ganon, and that's how you beat the game.
Yep, Link to the Past, also when it was first released, was then re-released with 4 swords, which you heard about earlier. But anyway, after this, we move on to Link's Awakening. Link's Awakening is a bit of a strange game, and actually was re-released for the Switch. In Link's Awakening, the entirety of the game is a dream, in which Link was traveling somewhere by boat, and his boat was struck by lightning, causing him to pass out in the sea and go into the dreamland known as Kahalan Island. Here, he has to find the 7 instruments of the sages to awaken the windfish and the dream and go back into real life.
Once you get the 7 instruments, then you beat the nightmare creature that is plaguing the windfish.
After this, we go to the Oracle Seasons and Oracle Ages game. These 2 games were released separately, but having them together goes to a special ending. In both games, they go into different lands where you find the Oracle of Ages in one and the Oracle of Seasons in the other. By going through time and changing the seasons, you're able to end the plots of Varen and Onyx, who were pawns of Katek and Kum, the 2 witches who were trying to revive Ganon. If you combine the 2 games, you eventually get to the point where Ganon is revived, destroying him and once again saving Hyrule.
So basically, in this game,
games.
In these games, they're actually one of them is based off of Din, and one of them is based off of Nairu. Now, it is believed that they were supposed to make one for Furore, and that's why there was only blue and red, because obviously there are 3 goddesses, like we explained earlier today. So I guess Nintendo just didn't release one, but anyways, so you have to defeat these 2 bad guys in the game, and then later, at one point, the Twin Rova, which are the 2 bad witches for Din and Nairu, and they resurrect Ganon, and then you have to beat Ganon.
After this, the Triforce splits, and we get to the game A Link Between Worlds. In this game, the parallel universe of Hyrule, known as Lorule, invades Hyrule, and because the Triforce of Lorule was destroyed by Ganon. What happens is Link has to go and save both realms, causing the Triforce being returned to Hyrule's sacred realm.
So I actually do remember playing this on the DS, and it is pretty fun. It's kind of like A Link Between Worlds, but not a ton. The map is kind of similar, actually, and you have to get go around the map And there's a witch that you can actually go with, and she'll take you somewhere at some point. And then there's also, at one point, you get like the swimming gear to go to the Zora's Domain. You get these, I don't know what they're called. They're like muscle gloves or something, and they help you lift up big rocks. And at one point, there's this bad painter guy. He looks pretty weird, and you have to beat him because he takes the 7 sages and he puts them all in paintings. And then I believe he takes you to the other darker world, and you have to beat him there.
Following this is Triforce Heroes. Triforce Heroes takes place in Hytopia, a distant land of Hyrule. In this game, well, this country or kingdom is more focused around fashion. What happens is an evil witch named Lady Maud from the Drablands curses the princess, trapping her permanently in a tight brown jumpsuit, making her unpretty and kind of going against the whole thing of the kingdom. So what Link does is he and 2 other Links, who were also assigned to the job, found to be similar heroes from other lands. From that point, they go to the Drablands, defeat the witch, and save Hytopia.
So basically in this game, you have to defeat the witch in the Drablands and save Hytopia to beat the game.
Focuses on a lot of things with the fact that there's 3 Links here, but instead of being multiplayer, you can control them each at once or at different times. After this, the royal family uses the Triforce, and prosperity gives way to decline, which reduced Hyrule to a small regional power. After this is the original Legend of Zelda, in which Ganon returns, but Link has to go around gathering the 8 pieces of the Triforce of Courage to defeat Ganon and save Hyrule. But the hidden Triforce, and then at the end of this game, the hidden Triforce of Wisdom is located.
So this is actually the first ever Zelda game ever created, and as you heard, you have to get the 7 pieces of the Triforce of Courage and just beat Ganon to find the Triforce of Wisdom.
The next game that comes up is Adventure of Link. In this game, the ancient Princess Zelda returns, but is in a deep slumber, and the hidden Triforce of Courage is then found, and then you have to go around Hyrule to all these different palaces to defeat the Thunderbird, and finally, the Link's shadow itself, to then wake Zelda up with the full Triforce, and causing the end of this split in the timeline. Next up, we go to where, in Ocarina of Time, Link defeats Ganon, causing another split. The split here is where Link goes back in time and then stops Ganon's plot. This leads to the game Majora's Mask, where after saving Hyrule, Link's friend, the fairy Navi, goes away. So what Link has to do is he goes out looking for her, but accidentally gets tricked by a Skull Kid wearing the Majora's Mask, and gets transferred to a world called Termina. In this world, there's 3 days before the moon will come crashing down into the land, and in these 3 days, which are, I think, equivalent to 3 days in real life, you have to go around to the 4 different regions to free the spirits of the Giants of the Four, of which will stop the moon on the final day.
So, as you heard, mostly from him, but I'm gonna re-say it. Basically, this is Child Link, and you have to save Clocktown from the giant ugly moon that's about to hit it in 3 days. And basically, there's this kid named Skull Kid, and he has the Majora's Mask, and he tries to take over places and let the moon hit Clocktown. So you have to get the 3 giants, 4 giants, and they will hold up the moon and
put it back up in the sky.
Yep. And after you beat this game,
you return
Skull
back to
Kid
Hyrule.
turns good, and you return to Hyrule.
Next up is Twilight Princess, in which Ganondorf, as we know, the king of the thieves, is banished to the Twilight Realm. And what happens is the Twilight, which are then commanded by Ganon, which you heard about earlier. Since they're on this Twilight Realm and Ganon's sent there, he takes over the realm and brings them to Hyrule, taking over all of Hyrule. What happens is Ganondorf returns with that, but then Link, who is able to change between his form and a wolf form, with the help of the old Twilight Queen Midna, who is transformed into an imp. With that help, they go around Hyrule, they solve puzzles, go back and forth between the Twilight Realm, and eventually they stop Ganondorf and the end saving Hyrule, which is the end of this split in the timeline.
So basically in this game, you have the Twilight Mirror, and once you go into it, you can find Minda, and she's in imp form, and she helps you turn into a version called Wolf Link. And with Wolf Link, you can actually go around with Minda, and at one point you just have to defeat Ganon, and whole Hyrule is saved.
Next up, we have the part of the adult timeline where after Link is sent back, Ganon is sealed away. But then what happens is Hyrule itself is sealed to keep Ganon from getting out, and the entirety of Hyrule is then accidentally flooded by the gods. This brings us to our game Wind Waker, in which Ganondorf is revived, and then what happens is Link meets this pirate named Tetra who's willing to help. Since Ganondorf is trying to find Zelda, he accidentally captures Link's sister. So with this, like I said, Link goes with Tetra and goes off to try to find Ganondorf, to find out that Tetra is actually Princess Zelda in disguise. Together, they defeat Ganondorf, and Hyrule is saved, yet it's still flooded.
Yeah, so basically in this game, the whole thing is flooded, and Ganon takes Link's sister, and Tetra, this girl that you find in Wind Waker, she helps you go and get Link's sister and defeat Ganon, but then you find out that Tetra is actually Zelda.
And when we say that Hyrule is flooded, we don't mean like the kind of thing you'll see in your street when it rains really hard. No, the entirety of Hyrule is covered by a massive ocean. Only the tips of giant mountains remain as small little islands, of which there are 40 of scattered across, of which there are different settlements and different little things that you can find. Next up is Phantom Hourglass. This game chronologically is actually only 10 minutes long. What happens is when Link falls off a boat, he's accidentally sent into another world, which is pretty much the same as the current one, in which he has to team up with a boater named Lineback, and they have to go stop Bellum, a life-eating force who tries to destroy Tetra and take her life force, similar to what happens in Four Swords. At this point, they find that the Ocean Spirit has been plagued, and they save the Ocean Spirit and defeat Bellum, then going back to Hyrule after saving this universe.
So in this game, you have to defeat Bellum and save the Spirit of the Ocean and Tetra.
This leads us to where the Kingdom of Hyrule is then refounded in a new land that they find at the end of the ocean. This leads us to the final part of this timeline, Spirit Tracks. In this world, they find the spirit of good is in the land. Using that, they can power these train tracks that they have all across the land. From here, in the center is a tower called, the Tower of Spirits, and you have 4 different regions, of which are all covered in train tracks. What happens in this game is there is a demon king named Malatus, and like an imposter inside of the Kingdom of Hyrule helps to bring him back, taking Zelda's body to be used, leaving Zelda as a spirit. Zelda's spirit then takes over a Phantom's armor, which are old armor that's left, or guards that are left behind in the Tower of Spirits. From there, they stop Malatus, defeat Malatus, and the land is saved.
So basically, in this game, the Demon King Malatus, sealed long ago, returns. Princess Zelda and Link defeat the demon. The Locomo Guardians return to the heavens, and the new land is entrusted to the people of Hyrule.
You heard it from there. After the old natives were left behind, after this demon king is left, they can finally return up to the heavens, and this new land is now, as you said, it's owned by the people of this new Kingdom of Hyrule.
In this book, it does not say, but Breath of the Wild is at the end, And in Breath of the Wild, you have to basically, in the story, it's 100 years past. Link's been sleeping, big power nap, and basically Zelda's been holding Ganon back from just taking out all of Hyrule. And at one point, once you do everything, which you don't have to do everything, you just have to get off the Great Plateau. You can go defeat Ganon right away if you want to after that. But it's just honestly really fun because it's an open world game. There's billions of things to do, and it's just so fun to do. And once you do that, you can beat Ganon, do things like Trial of the Sword, get the Medals of Honor for beating all 40 Hinoxes, or Stone Talus, or all 4 Molduga.
And for those of you who are wondering, this game actually appears at each end of the split, meaning that this is actually a possibility that happens at the end of each one. And speaking of which, right after that is Breath of the Wild 2, or Tears of the Kingdom, which we are very excited for.
Yep.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it useful. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did, and have a good day.